good morning and welcome back to another week on my allotment. And I appreciate you can't see much of me, which is probably no bad thing. And you'll see I've got the fire on. It's the last, I think it's the last week of August. Without shadow of a doubt, the summer month. And summer is over here in the UK. As is traditional, we had our week off, which we thoroughly enjoyed. It started raining the day after we got to Exmoor, and it did not stop on and off all week, and it's still raining there now, and the forecast for the next week there is rain, as it is here. It's obviously it's dark outside, and it's chilly, so I've put my fire on. No point in having it if you don't use it, and I don't care that it's August, it's blooming cold. And it's very, very wet. And I've had a sort of a cursory walk up and down the plot in the dark, and things are rampaging. If you have a garden or a vegetable patch or an allotment, you will know that there's a phenomenon where you walk around on a daily basis and you think, things aren't growing, why isn't anything moving? And then you go away for a week and you come back and the triffids have taken over the garden. And from what I can see, that's what's happened here. All the water butts are full to the brim, so are clearly overflowing, as is the butternut squash bed. It's not just overflowing, it's gone over the paths and it's now into all the other beds. Anyway, I'll talk about it. It's dark, you can't see me, so I'm going to sit here and enjoy my cup of tea, enjoy this wonderful fire and the glow in the warm, and when it's light and I've had a proper walk round, I will appraise you of what's happened while I've been away. Well, it's a bit lighter now, and I have had a good wander round. Oh, there's thousands of seagulls over the golf driving range. I don't know why they seem to like it there. I'm sure there's a very good reason for it. Anyway, sorry, I'm distracted. Yes, we had a lovely week away. The weather was probably the worst we've ever had. But, you know, it doesn't rain solid. I mean, we had a little bit of trouble getting off. We were on a grass pitch and we nosed the caravan in on the Friday we got there because the weather was still from that hot spell. So we had a lovely view out over the valley because the campsite was terraced. Little did we know a week later, after a week of solid rain, you know, I can't hitch the caravan up directly because the nose is in. So we had to back it out. Well, we got movers, which makes it easier, but I borrowed some planks from the wardens and put the planks under the jockey wheel as it reversed out. The tyres managed. Anyway, it wasn't a problem in the end, but you could see all over the campsite where people aren't quite as used to, you know, muddy conditions as I am, having served in the army for many years. I know a little bit about getting vehicles out of difficult situations, and they hadn't thought ahead. Anyway, the campsite was a mess. So we're back, and I'll show you a few clips of our lovely walks. And yeah, despite the weather, we thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. We got all over Exmoor. We just had a lovely time together. And I know that sounds a bit crass, but you know, we have very busy lives, and you sort of cross over in the hallway every now and again and you say hello, and we do try and get together for meal times, but to spend the week together at a leisurely pace was lovely. Anyway, I'm now back, and I've said to you before, and those who've watched my videos will know, I get this overwhelming surge of, crikey, look at the state of it all. And it is a mess. It is a mess. The weeds, the grass around the edges where they're coming up through the chippings, and oh, the weeds are massive, and you know, the French beans, the runner beans, they look awful. They've gone over, I think. You know, you've got to keep picking them to create more produce. And of course I haven't been here, so I haven't picked it, so I think they've finished, but I'll have a closer look. And I've been cutting off the strawberry plants that I've been creating, and most of them have rooted, but some of them I only did just before we went away, and I'm growing those for Betty and Linda. So they're not quite, I can't see the roots coming out the bottom of the pot, so I was going to dig that bed up today and start building it up like I have this one, but I'm going to wait another week. A little bit of patience if I can, and then those strawberry plants will root, and then I can hand some of those over to Betty, because those ladies have been very good to me, dropping off produce, so it's an opportunity to give something back. So I'm not going to do that job today, which releases a lot of time to get round the beds, and it's really just housekeeping, keeping the grass down. You know, all the grass needs cutting. When I turned up this morning in the dark, I have driven my van round, even though the ground is very wet, and it was fine. There was a frame on the ground. I thought, what the bloody hell is somebody doing on the back of my plot? Well, I'll show you in a second, but it's a piece of Harris fencing. And if you don't know what Harris fencing is, it's the metal frames that you see around building sites and old dilapidated buildings to keep people out. And with these peas, alderman that I grew, I thought if I had a piece of that frame, that would be really solid, rather than trying to grow it up all that wire mesh I had, which made a real mess. Anyway, I think it was Terry I mentioned it to, and I'm guessing, and it is a guess, but I'm guessing Terry's come across a piece of that fencing, as only Terry can, and he's dropped a piece of a panel off at the back of my plot. So a public thank you to Terry. I really appreciate that. That's going to be fantastic next year. And if it's not Terry, whoever it was, thank you also. But anyway, I'm sure it was Terry. So what am I going to do today? Well, it really is just housekeeping. The plot is a mess, and of course everything's relative. I understand that. You know, some people could work all their lives and never get a plot as tidy as this, but I know that sounds a bit big-headed, but I like it to be just so, and it isn't. And I'm going to work today to try and get back to some sense of tidiness where I want it to be. So welcome along. Thanks for watching, if you see beyond this. And we'll have a chat as we go through the video. Actually, I'm back again. I knew what I wanted to say. I think what I'll do is, rather than what I normally do, is I show you around the plot at the end of the day, because that's when it looks its best, because I've spent, you know, 10 to 12 hours getting it so. But this is such an opportunity, because this is what it's like after a week away. So I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to wander around the plot and show you exactly how it is at 6 o'clock in the morning on my first day back after a week away. So, starting out the back of the plot, this is a piece of Harris metal fencing, as I explained. Thank you, Terry. And that is what I'm going to grow my alderman peas up next year. I didn't realise just how big they are. I think that's bigger than the normal ones. Anyway, I hope I've got a bed big enough to take that. Well, starting at the top here, I think I showed you these in the last video. Those are the Stour BC20 onions that have been sat there for a week now, and they look to be browning off nicely. So they're going home today, I think. There's the New Zealand spinach overflowing from the bed. That's been fantastic. I thoroughly recommend New Zealand spinach as opposed to the conventional spinach, which for me always bolts. This is the bed of new strawberry plants that I raised and prepared in one of my last videos, and that's the bed that's still got pots of runners in, and in fact I've been cutting them off already this morning, and I've got 2 trays of new strawberry plants there. So Betty, if you're watching this, when you're ready, I'll have some plants for you. So anyway, let's have a wander. Well, there's a pond in there somewhere, but in the autumn I'll get in amongst all that and clear it up. I'm not going to worry about that now. You can see where the weeds are coming. The calendulas have gone over because I haven't been weeding. Obviously being away, can't help that, not worried. That's a bed I'll salt today. The cabbages are ready, and the red cabbages look to be hearting up as well. That is the newest set of leeks I put in, and they're pretty much good to go now. But this is the sort of jungle you get when you're not here for a week. I mean, luckily John very kindly offered to water things for me, but we've had so much water I'm guessing he hasn't had to pick up a watering can. But the sweet peas have gone, the runner beans look to have gone over, they're huge. You see the sun reflecting off the side of that golf driving range. And these butternut squash, they've not, there's a path in there somewhere, and they're now over into the Choggia beetroot that I'm growing. So, moving along. Can't take my eyes off that sunrise. I'm not showing you the plot, I know, but will you look at that? Brussels sprouts, they're forming nicely. Looks like I've got a bit of caterpillar damage there, but not going to worry. The Roma tomatoes are ripening, as are all the others. I haven't looked very closely at the corn, but that looks like it's being eaten by the mice. I can see some massive cucumbers over there. Yeah, it's quite something. The only thing that hasn't done much is my Atlantic giant pumpkin. So I think Bridget's got the trophy. Well, I know Bridget's got the trophy this year. So yeah, the sweet corn's been ravaged. It's all been opened up. The mice have had it. In fact, I think the mice have had every cob. Yeah, I think this is the last year I grow sweet corn. It takes up a whole bed. You get to this stage and the mice or the rats have eaten it all. So that's me and sweet corn finished, I think. Two whacking great cabbages there. Wow, look at the sun shining through that polytunnel. Looks like it's got a giant sunbed lamp in it. Rhubarb has finally taken off, and then these butternut plants that Bridget gave me now look healthy, and even the pumpkins are starting to grow. That courgette was put there by me earlier, it hasn't just landed there. So there's a nice looking Charmant pumpkin, and as I look around I've counted, they're very small, but there's nothing in the contract about the size of the pumpkins you grow. So a pumpkin is a pumpkin. So yeah, they look fine. So as the August sunrise glows on the plot, there's a lot of work to be done. For example, things like that. All those nettles growing out the back of the compost heaps. You know, I don't want to be looking at that. I want to be looking at the blackberry plant that's growing in there. Anyway, lots of work, and I shall do my best. I'm not going to scratch the surface, but you know, I'll do what I can today. And not forgetting, I need to pick some stuff. Welcome to a very wet Exmoor. blue sky up there. Well, the afternoon's turned out very hot, and whilst it's been an absolutely stunning walk, some of the hills, like the one we're on now, are killing us. I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see Cheryl back there. She's doing ever so well. When we started, she had a bit of a fall, fell flat on her face, took a bit of a wind out of her, so she's done well to carry on. Although she won't thank me for telling you that. All right, dear?
No. You're not recording me, are you?
No, it's just me. No, the camera can't see you.
Good.
Bristol Channel. Well, we're down out of the wind now as Storm Ellen comes towards us. And this is a beautiful, classic bit of Exmoor countryside, with the heath that we're on giving way to agricultural land. No sign of any deer yet, but it's not for lack of looking. And up the top there, where we've just come from, is Dunkery Beacon, the highest point on Exmoor, which attracts quite a few people because it's only a half-hour walk from the car park, even less. But we want to get away from people down here in the quiet countryside, and it's a stunning day at last. See anything suspicious?
Yeah, very suspicious. Dodgy characters.
Today we're in the Barle Valley. That's the River Barle below me, a river I've canoed with my dad and on other occasions. Here's my long-suffering wife with me in all weathers. Cheryl's now acting as an involuntary shepherdess. Back down to the village of Dulverton. There's no plan in my activity, I just do jobs as I see them. And I keep stepping over and through and past all the new canes that are growing on this blackberry called Reuben. So I thought, right, let's cut out all the old stuff. So the canes that fruited this season, they've only just finished, I've cut down to the ground, and that just leaves the new canes which will bear next year's fruit. And I'm just going to tie them in, and they're going to go pretty much where the last ones went, because they're easy to pick up at this height. So I'm going to tie these in, it'll all be nice and neat, and I won't have to keep stepping over it out here. So I'm going to do that now. Well, there's my best pumpkin so far, as long as it's not rotten underneath. And I have another one there, just starting to colour up. But that's what I wanted to show you. The butternut is damn near as big as one of the pumpkins. It's a glorious specimen. And there are lots of them in there. So, very happy with how it's going, but I'm cutting it back off the path because even if new fruits set, they won't have time to mature, and I've got to be able to walk up and down the path, so I've got to do the same over there where it's going into the Brussels sprouts and the tomatoes, and then I've got to pick some of these tomatoes. I think it was my last video or the video before, I happened to mention a couple of facts out of the QI book, and it included a couple of funny names. And one of my subscribers, I'm laughing already, one of my subscribers, Fanites, got on to me and said, oh, I've got a book recommendation for you, Potty, Fart, Well and Knob. Well, I was so taken with the idea, thank you very much. I bought the book straight away and I took it away to Exmoor with us. Well, I had to stop reading it because I was sitting outside the caravan on the odd occasion that the sun shone, and I'm doing what I'm doing. Just laughing to the point where I was crying and I couldn't see. In fact, I've had to wipe my eyes now. Some of the names, and there's very few of these are the 20th century. Most of these names are the 17 and 1800s, and I can't believe parents would give their children such names. So many of them are a play on their surname. Then there are others. I haven't found it in the book recently, but I remember one person was called Not Wanted so and so. I mean, imagine the legacy that leave when your parents have christened you. Your first name is Not Wanted. There was another one, Neglected was their first name, and the reason they were given the first name Neglected is because by the time of their baptism they hadn't got godparents, so they were christened Neglected. Anyway, I just thought I'd read a few. I've struggled to find a couple of pages that are readable, bearing in mind that from time to time my mother watches these videos, so I've got to be careful, Mother. Anyway, I found some reasonable ones, and if you're of a mild disposition, switch off now. Anyway, in no particular order, and these aren't made up. There's a reference underneath in the in the records if you're interested. Right, just going to read the names: Mary Dirty, Charles Dismal, Thomas Dizzy, Lucy Drip, Richard Drivel, Hubert Drunk, Reginald Daisy Dull, Honora Dummy, Dora Dunce, Goon Eccles, Weekly Eakins, Hopeless Evans. Imagine spending your life saying, sorry, and you are? Oh, I'm hopeless. Dick Face, Will Fail. I wonder if he went on to become anything important. Martha Fat, George Fatman, Hugh Fatty. I won't read the next, that's terrible. A few more. Grace Less, John Lyer, Scary Looker, Nafina Lusa, Jeremiah Lousy, Martha Mankey, Vandal Mason, Sarah McNasty, Dim McTavish, S. Smelly, Grace Banshee Merchant, Gustavus Burke Middleditch, Ditzy Millard, Strange Milliner. Oh, and it's a whole book full of them. And all I'm going to say is most of them are not readable in polite company. I have laughed. I can't even begin to tell you. I mean, it's real toilet humour, which is the best kind, isn't it? Oh, I have so laughed. So thank you very much, Faye Knights. That was one of the best book recommendations I've ever had. I mean, the books that I've sort of recommended, you know, How Not to Die, Healthy at 100, they will save your life. But that will make you laugh till you drop dead. Fantastic. I have chuckled. Well, quick picking. And the tomatoes are suffering because we've had over a week now of solid rain, high warm temperatures, quite humid, and very little sunshine. There are signs of blight now on the plants. The moneymaker, which I believe is blight resistant, and I think although you get signs of the blight on the plant, you know, the blackening of the leaves and the drooping, I think the tomatoes are still okay. So I'm not going to go whipping all the plants out because I've seen a bit of blight. I'm going to leave them there and see if the remaining of the tomatoes ripen up. But a sort of note to myself is that when I first planted all these tomatoes, and as I said, there are 49 plants down there, I put these little cane stakes in and thought, right, I'll sort them later. And I never got back to it. And all the plants have fallen over. They're all piled on top of each other, which is just a breeding ground for blight. So I'm going to try this again next year. I'm fairly happy that, you know, I've got a lot of tomatoes at home that Cheryl made a lot of sauce out of last night. We had some. I've got some here for my lunch today. She's going to do these tonight. She's already said, you know, she'll bring home some tomatoes and she'll make some more sauce and freeze it. So they'll be used. You know, they're a valuable crop and they see us through the winter a little bit. So I'm going to do it again next year, but this time, or next time, I will put proper stakes in. I'll leave bigger gaps and I will grow them all as cordons. That, you know, maximises the airflow and the light and hopefully will prevent blight. Albeit this last week has been atrocious and there's more to come, so there's only so much you can do, but I can do better. Anyway, I'm very happy with that crop. Carrying on my campaign to keep you educated and cultured, a few interesting facts. William Shatner had a kidney stone removed and sold it for £25,000. Some people can produce goosebumps on demand. 7% of Americans have bashful bladder syndrome, which means they can't pee if they can hear or see another person. 80% of women hover over public toilets. Bacteria can penetrate 6 layers of loo paper, which goes to show the wisdom of what I was told in the army, because you could never, when I first started out in the army, the loo paper was that shiny stuff that didn't really do much. So the instructors, whether they were serious or not, I don't know, but I took them seriously. They said if you want to conserve toilet paper, because there's not a lot of it, take one sheet of toilet paper, cut a hole in it and put your finger through, and then you can use it forever. It's the kind of wisdom you get when you're an army recruit. Rats can tread water for 3 days and survive being flushed down the lavatory. Funnel web spiders can live in water for 30 hours. Coconut crabs grow as big as dogs. A blind man who is scared of dogs has been given the UK's first guide horse. I'm assuming it's one of those little pony things, but you know, you never know. Could be a Shire horse, couldn't it? The Titanic's gym had an electric horse for passengers to hone their riding skills. Oh, here's one for me. Summer and autumn are times when Google searches for hair loss peak. I think I'm a bit beyond hair loss, but there you go. Oh, I do enjoy those. I hope you do too. Right, that's what's left of my cabbages. Taken back the Enviromesh, run the hoe through and picked off all the lower leaves which were rotten. They're not doing the plant any good and they're harbouring all the slugs and snails. So I pulled out a lot of slugs sitting on those wet, damp, rotting leaves. So that's a lot tidier and they're all good to crop now. Right, just got to put the Enviromesh back over. Well, I've had a good day. The plot is looking a lot neater, a lot tidier. I've filled up the whole compost bay with all the weeds and the brassica leaves I've removed. So I've picked some French beans and runner beans. I've put another load of pots in the strawberries for more runners to more plants. I've cleared away a lot of the butternut squash plants that are leading across the beds at the paths. I've tidied up a load of beds, as you can see, weeded them. I've cleared around the brassicas and removed a lot of the lower leaves to dissuade the slugs. Yeah, a good day, very happy. Well, everything's back on track. That's a good shift. I feel happier now that everything's as it should be. I mean, obviously, as always, and I've said it many times, there's always more you can do, but I've had a good day. I've enjoyed myself, got back into the swing of things, and everything's looking neat and tidy. Got a nice little harvest to go home with. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed your brief stay with me on the allotment and on Exmoor, and I will be back next weekend. So take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I shall see you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye for now.